Raise your hand if you're still in sweatpants. That would be me. My hand is raised. Alright. The song in the background is called Romeo is Bleeding by Tom Waits.
Romeo is bleeding, not so you notice. So on 18th Street as usual.
Look, there's two kinds of people in this world. People who know who Tom Waits is, and people who don't. And now, you know who Tom Waits is. He's an acquired taste, like broccoli or Brussels sprouts. It's like, you don't like him right now, but you'll like him eventually.
Kill the sheriff with his knife, and they all jump and they hear the sirens. Romeo just laughs. It's all a racket in the world. They never gonna see that copper's ass.
He doesn't really sing that well. Oh, I think there was a bad word.
Leaving him like a dog.
Whoops.
He did the call without his knife. Romeo says, "Hey man, give me a cigarette," and they hurry for that pack. Frank is asking for him, bats him on the back.
I should have previewed the song first.
And as it breaks, he grabs his nuts. They all know they could be just like Romeo if they only had the guts. Romeo is bleeding, nobody can tell. He sings along with the radio with a bullet in his chest. He combs back his fenders. They all agree it's clear that everything is cool and that Romeo is here. Romeo is bleeding.
All right,
That's
probably enough of that. I'll
leans against the car door.
I'll lower the volume. Anyway, hope everybody's doing good. We're gonna be looking at Act 5, Scene 3, which is actually the final scene of the play. It's a super long scene though, so we're gonna break it up into 2 parts. Yeah, we're gonna do that today. So, let's get started, huh? First thing I'm gonna do is check Google Classroom, see who's been checking in with the question. Not a heck of a lot of you, so please make sure that you're listening for the question in this podcast. And you know what? I think I'm gonna mix it up. I'll put it somewhere. The question of the day I'll put somewhere that is not at the end. All right? But come on, it lets me know if you're out there, all right? I need to know if you're out there. Let's see what Period 9 said. Period 9. People who had comments, only 2 people from Period 9. Nick was up at 10:06, but Cora was up before him at 9:30. Let's see. I'm just reading a different comment that says, from Desmond, it says, I'm having a chat today at 10:30 to 12. Desmond says, that's pretty early. Julius is like, facts! I know, it's way early. Let's see what other classes. See if anybody was more responsive than Period 9. Not many in Period 7, just Zoe, who told me 9 o'clock was her wake-up time. This is kind of getting depressing that I'm not seeing you guys on here. Let's see. Connor said he's going to be here for the chat. Let's see. Mike Fitzpatrick says he's up at 10. Lindsay says he's up at 9:30. Brian says, yo, is this being graded? Brian, it's time for you to get your act together. All right. No, guys, nothing's being graded. I just would like you to participate. So this way, we're all on the same page when we get back. But no, I can't. All I'm doing is grading your first 5 weeks of this quarter, and that is your quarter grade. Any questions about that? Talk to me later. Have a chat with me. All right. Let's get back to Romeo and Juliet. Act 5, Scene 3. It starts on page 2, I think it's 219. Yeah, 219. All right. So, We're on Act 5, Scene 3, and at this point, what's happened here is Friar Lawrence has just found out from Friar John that message never got to Romeo. So that's not a great thing. And he realizes, he's in trouble. Now, at the same time, Romeo has snuck his way back into Verona, and he's ready to go and die in the tomb of the Capulets. So anyway, in Scene 3, Paris enters the scene. Paris says, "Give me that torch, boy." He's with like a servant of his. "Hence and stand aloof. Yet put it out, for I would not be seen." So Paris is trying not to be seen. He's trying to be mysterious in the background. "Under yon yew trees that lay thee all along, holding thy ear close to the hollow ground, so shall no foot upon the churchyard tread, being loose, unfirm with digging up of graves." He's like, okay, I got to be very, very quiet because I am going to be looking for somebody. "But thou shalt hear it. Whistle then to me as a signal that thou hearest something approach. Give me those flowers. Do as I bid thee. Go." So basically, Paris wants to sneak into, or he's doing something, and he wants his servant to let him know if anybody's coming. So the question should be like, what is Paris doing? Paris' servant says aside, which means that only the audience can hear him. He says, "I am almost afraid to stand alone here in the churchyard, yet I will adventure." He does not want to be standing alone. Okay, Paris is scattering flowers. And he says, "Sweet flower, with flowers thy bridal bed I strew. Oh, woe, thy canopy is dust and stones, which with sweet water nightly I will do. Or, wanting that with tears distilled by moans, the abisquities that I for thee will keep nightly shall be to strew thy grave and weep." Basically, he's saying that every night he's going to come to Juliet's tomb and cry over her. Remember, Paris really hasn't done anything wrong. He's not a bad guy. It's just that Juliet's not into him. That's the only thing. The page whistles. His servant whistles, which means somebody's coming. You know, Paris wanted this alone time to mourn Juliet, and he's not supposed to be there. But his servant whistles, and Paris says, "The boy gives warning. Something doth approach. What cursed foot wanders this way tonight to cross my abisques and true love's right? What, with a torch, muffle me, night a while." He steps aside. So basically, he's like, "What? Who's coming? Who's disturbing me right now when I'm weeping over Juliet's grave?" And of course, Romeo and Balthazar enter. Romeo says, "Give me that mattock and the wrenching iron. Give me the crowbar. Hold, take this letter. Early in the morning, see thou deliver it to my lord and father. Give me the light. Upon thy life I charge thee. Whatever thou hearest or seest, stand all aloof, and do not interrupt me in my course while I descend into this bed of death. Is partly to behold my lady's face, but chiefly to take thence from her dead finger a precious ring, a ring that I must use in dear employment. Therefore hence be gone. But if thou, jealous, dost return to pry in what I further shall intend to do, by heaven, I will tear thee joint to joint and strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs." All right, he just threatened his friend. What he's saying to his friend Balthazar is like, "Hey, dude, thanks for taking me here. The reason I'm here is I have to get into her tomb and I have to take a ring off her finger." Obviously, he can't say that he's going to kill himself because Balthazar will be like, "No." And he's like, "That's all I want. And can you please do me a favor and go away? And if you come back, I'll tear you limb from limb. And I'll strew this hungry churchyard with thy limbs. The time and my intents are savage wild, more fierce, more inexorable far than empty tigers or the roaring sea." He's like, basically, leave me alone, dude. If you don't leave me alone, I will break your head. Balthazar says, "Okay, I'll be gone, sir, and not trouble you." He's like, "Yeah, I don't want to be torn apart, so I will go." Romeo says, "So shalt thou show me friendship? Take thou that." And he gives him money. He's like, Thank you for showing this friendship. Here's some money for your troubles. Live and be prosperous, and farewell, good fellow." Balthazar says aside, which means only the audience can hear, "For all this same, I'll hide me hereabout. His looks I fear, and his intents I doubt." So Balthazar's like, well, and just the audience hears this. He's like, "Nah, I'm not going to go just yet. I'm going to hide over here because Romeo's acting really funky right now." Romeo steps aside and he says to the tomb, he's talking to the tomb now that he's about to pry open. He's like, "Thou detestable maw." Maw is your jaw. So he's like, he's trying to open it with a crowbar, and he's talking to the tomb, and he's like, your detestable, your gross jaw. Thou womb of death, gorged with dearest morsel on the earth, thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I'll cram thee with more food. That's kind of disgusting, but he's prying open the tomb, and he's like, open, and I'll give you more food. More food meaning himself, of course. Paris now says, and again, Romeo can't hear him just yet, but he says, this is that banished haughty Montague. So Paris is there, and he's like, what's this? What's Romeo doing here? He's banished. That murdered my love's cousin, with which grief it is supposed the fair creature died. He's like, wait, this guy who killed her husband, or who killed her cousin, is here, and this is the reason why Juliet's dead right now. Of course, he doesn't know what's going on at all. And here has come to do some villainous shame to the dead bodies. I will apprehend him. So Paris thinks that Romeo's there to mutilate the bodies, the corpses of Tybalt and Juliet. So he steps forward and unveils himself and says to Romeo, stop thy unhallowed toil. Stop what you're doing. Vile Montague, can vengeance be pursued further than death? Come den, villain, I do apprehend thee. Obey and go with me, for thou must die. Now, this is remarkably different than the movie. In that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, this never happens. Okay? Paris is not a thing after Romeo comes back. All right? Romeo says, I must indeed, and therefore I come hither. Good, gentle youth, tempt me not, a desperate man. Fly hence and leave me. Think upon thee gone. Let them affright thee. I beseech thee, youth. Put not another sin upon my head by urging me to fury. Be gone, by heaven, I love thee better than myself, for I come hither armed against myself. Stay not, be gone, live, and hereafter say, a madman's mercy bid thee run away. Once again, Romeo is saying, like, dude, just leave me alone, I don't want to hurt you. And, Romeo never really did intend harm. He didn't really want to kill Tybalt. But here he's begging Paris to just leave him alone. Paris says, I do defy thy communation and apprehend thee for a felon here. Paris is like, heck no, man. You're a felon. I'm not gonna leave you alone. Romeo says, wilt thou provoke me? Then have out thee, boy. They draw and they fight. Okay, so Romeo's like, all right, you want to fight? I'll fight. Now Paris's servant says, oh Lord, they fight. I will go call the watch. He's like, I gotta go call the police. Then Paris gets stabbed, and he says, oh, I am slain, which is, of course, what you say when you're stabbed. Whenever I'm stabbed, I always go, oh, I'm stabbed. Paris says, oh, I am slain. If thou be merciful, open thy tomb. Lay me with Juliet. So Paris is being asked to be laid with Juliet, like Romeo's going to let that happen. Of course, Romeo's there so he could lay with Juliet. Romeo says, in faith, I will. Let me peruse this face. Mercutio's kinsman, noble county Paris. Oh, he didn't even know it was Paris the whole time he was fighting until now. What said my man when my betossed soul did not attend him as we rode? I think he told me Paris should have married Juliet. Said he not so? Or did I dream it so? Or am I mad, hearing him talk of Juliet, to think it was so? Oh, give me thy hand. One writ with me in our Sours Misfortunes book. I'll bury thee with a triumphant grave. He kind of is basically saying he wasn't even sure. He's like, wait, is this the guy that said that I heard was going to marry Juliet? He was not even clear on that. He opens the tomb. A grave? Oh no, a lantern slaughtered youth, for here lies Juliet, and her beauty makes this vault a feasting presence full of light. Death, lie thou there by a dead man interred. And he lays Paris in the tomb. So he puts Paris in the tomb respectfully, after he killed him, respectfully. Just not in Juliet's casket, if you will. How oft when men are at the point of death, have they been merry? I'm on page 227, by the way. This is a soliloquy from Romeo. Soliloquy is a speech given by one person. Soliloquy. Let's start that soliloquy again. He says, how oft when men are at the point of death, how often when men are at the point of death, have they been merry, which their keepers call a lightning before death? He says, he's like, oh, basically, before people die, they feel good. They feel happy. Oh, how may I call this a lightning? Oh, my love, my wife, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath hath no power yet upon thy beauty. Thou art not conquered. Beauty's ensigns yet is crimson in thy lips and thy cheeks, and death's pale flag is not advanced there. He's like, oh, I feel suddenly happy because he knows he's about to die. He's about to kill himself. And he's like, oh, I feel suddenly happy. And there's Juliet. And oh, she doesn't even look that dead yet. Her death's pale flag is not advanced on her face yet. Tybalt, liest thou there in thy bloody sheet? Oh, Tybalt's over there. Oh, what more favor can I do to thee than with the hand that cut thy youth in twain to sunder this with thine enemy? He's like, look, Tybalt, I'm going to do you a favor. I killed you. Now I'm going to kill me. Forgive me, cousin. Ah, dear Juliet, why art thou yet so fair? Oh, Juliet, why do you still look so beautiful? Because she's not dead, Romeo. She's not dead. That's why she still looks beautiful. Shall I believe that substantial death is amorous, and that the lean, abhorred monster keeps thee here in dark to be his paramour? Basically, what he's saying is death so selfish that death is going to keep you as beautiful just for himself? No, it's just that she's not dead, so she doesn't look dead. For fear of that, I still will stay with thee, and never from here, this palace of dim night, desperate, depart again. I will never depart from you again. Here I will remain with worms that are thy chambermaids. That's kind of gross. Here I'll remain with you with worms that are your chambermaids while worms eat your body. That's so gross. Oh, here will I set up my everlasting rest and shake the yoke of inauspicious stars from the world-wearied flesh. Eyes, look your last. Arms, take your last embrace. And lips, oh, you, the doors of breath, seal with righteous kiss a dateless bargain to engrossing death. And then he kisses Juliet. Come, bitter conduct, come, unsavory guide, thou desperate pilot, now at once run on the dashing rocks, the seasick, weary bark. Here's to my love, and he drinks the poison. O true apothecary, thy drugs are quick. Thus, with a kiss, I die. He dies. So, in the movie, there's kind of like this big kind of dramatic thing where like he wakes up or she wakes up while that doesn't happen either. That's all Hollywood. Friar Lawrence enters right after that, and that's, you know what, we're gonna stop there for today. So we'll stop at Romeo's death for today. Before we get to the Act 5 Scene 3 worksheet, I'll ask the question. I want you to post the answer in Classroom. Please make sure you are posting your answers. It lets me know if you are awake, which most of you right now are not. So, today's question is, if you had to be quarantined with anyone other than the people that you're quarantined with now, if you had to pick one other person in the entire world to be quarantined with, who would it be? Leave your answers in the comment section of Classroom on this assignment. Cool. All right, let's take a look at Act 5, Scene 3, the worksheet. So at the top it says summarize what happens in this scene. So don't fill up that entire box because we're not done. Just take the first half of the box and tell me what happens in the first half of the scene. All right, do you think Balthazar is a good friend to Romeo? Explain. Well, there's a couple things that he did do that seemed like a good friend would do. First of all, he went to go tell Romeo as soon as he saw Juliet dying. He didn't know, not his fault, but he did go to tell Romeo. And the second thing is that when Romeo paid him to leave, he didn't leave. All right, so, and we'll get to more about Balthazar in a bit, but that seems to be enough. Is Romeo's killing of Paris premeditated? Premeditated means that you thought of it beforehand, and what do you think there? Okay, next, there's a line there that says, thou detestable maw, thou womb of death, and he's talking here to the tomb, gorged with the dearest morsel of the earth. Thus I enforce thy rotten jaws to open, and in despite I'll cram thee with more food. This contains a metaphor, a simile, or a paradox. Basically, a metaphor is when you directly compare something to something else, and that is the answer. It's a metaphor. He's comparing the tomb that he's prying open with Juliet in it to what? All right, and that's the question there. It says, in your own words, explain what Romeo is saying here. All right. Explain the irony of the lines below. Death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath hath no power yet upon thy beauty. Well, the irony is when the opposite of what is being said is actually happening. The irony is that she is not dead. Okay, that's your answer right there. All right. What possible reason might the friar have to leave Juliet in the tomb when she was clearly distressed? Let's hold off on that one, but let's go to in Romeo's final speech. In Romeo's final speech, he gives a lot of personification. Personification is giving human characteristics to non-human things, right? His final speech is on page, in the hardcover, it's on pages 225 and 227, all right? So your job would be to find 3 examples of personification. I'm not going to do that for you. Okay, guys, that's your assignment. Get to it. I think next one I'll put up will be on Wednesday. So get to it and have a good day. Bye.
Hey, Pachuco. Hey, Pachuco. Haga la lucha. Dame su pistola, hombre. Dame la chingada madre. Ay, qué pinche Pancho.